3 players have found their way into the quarterfinals, and it's time for yet another top 16 match. Bringing you the action, Noxious and Lorinda together again. The lovely dynamic duo. They hadn't casted together up until this weekend, but now we've thrown them on the desk enough that either they hate each other or they're probably starting to like each other.
That's not admirable.
I said Noxious and Lorinda.
Yeah, I've cast with him before.
DreamHack Montreal is.
Oh, you're right.
Sort of. We grew fond of each other. It happened.
I'm sorry.
Things happen in Montreal.
But you said mean things at Montreal. I've been waiting for...
I said no such things. That is absolute lies. Our next match is going to be Rosty taking on Justsaiyan. We've seen both of these players on stream a couple times before. And 2 very formidable players. Fantastic. Justsaiyan has had some really good DreamHack results. Rosty, not so much. So for Rosty, this could be a big breakout for him. He is known mostly as having gotten 2nd place to Sidonia in the Americas Championship last year. He wants to make a name for himself now.
Yeah, he's talked to me. I was actually talking about his games today, you know, how well he did in the Swiss rounds. And he seemed very confident, you know, just overall. He didn't really know how far he'd be able to go. But he was very satisfied with his results in the Swiss rounds. Granted, he made it to top 16. He was telling me about all the preparation that goes into this, the amount of maybe experience that is accumulated as well through coaching, because he does a little bit of that. So by explaining the plays, he also, as a result, I guess, consolidates his knowledge of matchups, and that helps a lot.
Yeah, he was a Gamer Sensei coach, now playing for Team Gamer Sensei alongside Ike, who is already through to the top 8, and Luker, who had a really good result at this tournament. Unfortunately, didn't make top 16, but still, that team has a lot to be proud of after DreamHack Denver, for sure. And then Justsaiyan, Team Tempo Storm, one of the most intelligent players in the game, very underrated. I think the professional community respects him so much, but he's not one of those star players in the eyes of the viewers.
Which is incredible to me. He doesn't seem to get a huge amount of airtime, even though he's just racked up his 40th match win here, which is really surprising because he doesn't really travel to Europe that often. So it's not like Tars, who just goes everywhere and racks up the wins. Saiyan pretty much stays on NA soil. 40 wins, 20 losses, so that's a 67% win rate at DreamHacks. This is his 4th top 16.
Yeah, he always makes it there, but then it just ends up failing. It's one of those things where until you get that big finish, you're never quite satisfied, and he just gives it his best every single time.
Well, he's going to give it his best one more time, and hopefully for him, it will work out. But Rosty wants to find that win as well. Let's check a look at the picks and bans, see what these players have brought to the table. Deck lists are open, so they have absolute knowledge of what their opponent has brought. Maybe that affects the bans. Let's find out. Druid, Mage, Priest with the Warlock ban. And for Saiyan, it's Paladin, Priest, Rogue with the Druid ban. The Warlock ban.
I know why.
Enlighten us.
It's very simple. It's the same strategy as banning Rogue. What happens is you ban the deck that plays for tempo, so that your tempo decks can get tempo for sure. Nailed it.
I'm processing.
I think he's playing Jiraxis in that Warlock deck.
I think he's playing Jiraxis in that Warlock deck.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing any tempo.
Oh, come on, man. So board clears, fine.
Rosty,
that works too. But the point is that you want to be the tempo deck that doesn't get nullified.
Rosty came backstage
Warlock,
a little bit earlier and really wanted us to emphasize the Warlock deck.
Yeah.
Sure.
It is no Giants, no Drakes, all removal with Jiraxis and Blood Reaver Gul'dan. It's a unique build, and Saiyan doesn't want to have to see it, so he's just going to straight up ban it away.
Yeah, sometimes that's not a bad strategy. You look at it, you don't have that much time to process what the deck's doing. You know the guy got to top 16 with it, and it's just like, I don't want any piece of this. He knows the matchups too well. I'm getting out of here. Well,
I'm looking at the deck list, and I understand why the ban was done. It's sort of the same idea, except it's all removal-based. So you can't get a board to stick with all the AoE and a Control Warlock.
Going to be really effective against tempo decks, which Saiyan seems to favor. Our players are ready. The moment has come. Lorinda, who's it going to be?
Saiyan.
Noxious?
Damn, that was harsh.
Saiyan again.
Rosty, because I talked to him earlier.
Yeah.
And he seemed to give me a confidence vibe.
Rosty is great player, good guy. Saiyan is one of the best players in the game. I'm going to play Switzerland and go neutral on this one. Rosty versus Justsaiyan right now.
All right, so we're going to be seeing Justsaiyan who banned the Warlock from Rosty. That definitely was not a Zoo deck, so it's still, you know, aiming to keep the tempo going. I think it's got a lot to do with the Paladin. It's one of the bad matchups the Paladin has is exactly that Warlock type build where everything just gets swept constantly and you're not able to really establish anything. And we've seen people ban Rogue to keep the Paladin alive in a way. And this is sort of the same idea where you just ban the deck that is the most likely that is to wipe out your tempo. So the strategy still works out. Let's get into game one to see exactly what they're going to be starting with. And it looks like we're starting with, well, at this moment...
That's a great chair.
I love that chair.
Which one, though? Which one? How's it going, anyway?
I would go with the bottom chair, and the bottom chair is just all in. All right, in the game this time around. Rosty
that was
at the
quick.
top. Yeah, they're just so good. Production's on point today, guys. All right.
Where do they teleport to?
They're just quick.
All right, so Paladin taking on the Mage. Haven't said that many times over this last couple of days.
Yeah, Rosty is running a, well, what you'd expect out of these types of decks, which is a Secret Mage. The goal here is just to disrupt some of the plays that, I guess, slower decks try to pull together. This is not one of those cases, though. Justsaiyan is not on the slow deck plan.
Yeah, he's hunting for a 1-drop. You don't throw a Hydrologist in any sort of slower deck. He is looking for a fast start. And he's kind of got it, but the next 2 or 3 pickups are going to have to be good, or he may end up with just nothing to do.
Yeah, there's something to be said, though. Like, that Secret Mage was looking to line up with something along the lines of Jade Druid or the Priest. Justsaiyan, however, did not end up getting that one out. So at the moment, it seems like the tempo that the Paladin generates is going to be uncontested for a little while.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of things that Rosty can pick up there that will soon change that on his head. Just a Mana Worm now would make all the difference. Maybe an Arcanologist would make a big difference. Kirin Tor Mage would make a big difference. There's a lot of stuff he can pick up here that soon changes how it looks right now, but that's not one of those cards. And
yeah.
Do you coin it out just to get going? You might have to.
Well, there's one thing to be said here is that the 2-1 was played first by Justsaiyan because if you play it later, it gets pinged potentially, so you give the Mage something to do. And here there's the anguishing decision, not so anguishing, of, hey, maybe I coin out my ping just to get that minion out. The next time a minion comes out, Paladins tend to play them one at a time, then you can kill that one as well.
Yeah, Rockpool Hunter's very scary if that's the buffed card in his hand right now. You don't want to go into that Rockpool Hunter and trade, so coining out a ping, which is such a weird sounding play, it's actually going to be the right move, and we can see that unless Justsaiyan picks up something good here, he might actually end up, that ping might just be game winning.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Rosty had to consider. The ping is so weak, but in the deck, against the deck that is, that will develop 1 minute at a time for the next, let's say, 4 turns or 5 turns, just making sure you get them out of the way 1 at a time is great. The upside, too, is that Rosty's sitting on a potential Frostbolt into Counterspell into double Medivh's Valet. I mean, that is an extremely strong removal curve.
So Saiyan trusting his deck here, the way to get something on board for turn 4, the safer way, if you like, would be to hero power, then next turn play the Murloc and hero power again. That's a total of 3 minions. Saiyan is just relying on picking something up here. If he picks up an expensive card, he is done. That's decent enough, just about, though, to get into this Blessing of Kings.
Well, it forces another Frostbolt to be present, which is rather unlikely, or a glyph with an answer to the minions. So all you're looking for, of course, is something to stick around. You are going to be curving naturally all the way to turn 5 if the Kings, you know, sticks. There are still a lot of cards in his deck that could make this, you know, salvageable, let's say.
Glyph looks so tempting here. But of course, Rosty doesn't know what he's up against. He may feel that he has to just occupy board to fight whatever's coming next. He doesn't know that necessarily Blessing of Kings is the next card on the agenda. He knows that Saiyan's in a bit of trouble, so he'll know that these are expensive cards in hand, but he won't know which ones.
The thing is that if Megasaur comes out, if Megasaur comes out, you really can't do much about it. That's one of the weaknesses of Secret Mage precisely against this type of Paladin deck, is once the buffs gets established, you're out. You really can't fight them off. Justsaiyan will play around Mirror Entity, not really that big of a threat if it does come up. And also will make sure Counterspell does not cripple him. The drawback, as we see it in Rosty's hand, there are 2 Medivh's Valets.
Yeah, they're going to have such a big tempo influence here. Obviously not just putting down minions on the board, but killing your opponent's stuff. Exactly what you want, and that Hydra is right on time to back them up.
Yeah, and this is sort of what you'd expect to see out of Secret Mage. It's not a deck that's known for its removal potential. It's mostly a deck that wants to go for tempo.
Excuse me.
But just like every tempo mage, it has these cards that can sometimes be used when you're behind, when the stars align. This is one such scenario. It is not a common one. It's very rare that you're able to get back into a game after, you know, getting, I guess you play a secret and nothing happens with it. Usually that's a death sentence. But in this case, it worked out very nicely for Rosty. He had the combination of the two valets.
So Saiyan's kind of, he is having some decisions to make, like not placing the Blessing of Kings, but other than that, he's kind of being forced by his hand to do stuff.
There's a counterspell up, right? We need to emphasize that. The Blessing of Kings is not being played because the counterspell just risks completely demolishing it. It's going to find a spot at some point when he's got more mana to weave in extra minions every turn instead of just the one. He'll be able to then play, say, a 1/1 and then a Kings on it immediately.
This is an awkward turn. You really want to ping that 4/1 off, but you also really want to play your Bittertide Hydra. So we may find that Rosty trades in one of these minions, plays the Hydra to threaten the 5/5 because he still has the Crystal Weaver, the Crystal Runner lined up for later.
Yeah, I wonder if you pick up a secret maybe somewhere. There's an argument for Archaeologist with Primordial Glyph with another secret, so you just sort of jam them all and get the Cabal Crystal Runner up. But while it seems like it's good on tempo, you're also giving your opponent the ability to, I guess, counter you with minion presence of their own.
So I think what he did there is he looked at it like I did and just went, okay, that's an okay play. And then he spent the whole of the rest of the turn thinking like we were thinking, is like, what is better? And then the rope starts burning, it's like, well, the okay play will have to do.
Yeah.
And there's that feeling that there's something better left out there, but this isn't a game-losing play.
You can see here just how dangerous this gets. As the board gets wide, Rosty's deck just does not include answers to this kind of stuff. You know, when Rosty brings a secret mage deck, what he's looking to do is dictate the pace of the game, not have it be dictated. Now, Murloc Paladin is exactly what you don't want to see if you're the secret mage, because it takes your game plan and speeds it up, and then you end up just trying to play catch up. And you know, Bittertide Hydra is fantastic against a board like this one, but it doesn't take too long for it to be negated against these types of decks.
For the time being, as long as he's got that counterspell protection against Spite Steed, etc., this Hydra is on defense. It's on duty, and it may have to just deal with this 8/4.
And this is what feels miserable, is that you've got this 1/8/8 that you paid 5 mana for. You'd like to go face to close out the game, but then you end up playing cleanup.
Yeah.
You're the board janitor for a while, and you're killing 2/2s and 5/5s for very little gain at the end of the day.
Now, if this Glyph can find a removal spell, this whole game turns on its head, and the Hydra becomes back in the... It becomes a friend of everybody again, starts killing stuff.
Yeah, I'd say Rosty probably wants to start with the Glyph, if only to delineate maybe game plans that are obvious.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things can happen from the Glyph that you've got to find out where you stand with it.
He's gonna simply fetch himself a secret here. Might be looking for Entity. He's simply gonna go for the counter tempo play. Fine.
I'm late.
Okay.
And he's gonna leave up the 8/4 because there's so many things deal with that 8/4. And the 8/4, yeah, if it hits me, so be it. But this is a second Scalebane option now for Saiyan. But Curator is also tempting. Lots of minion combat to work out here. Lots of twists and turns available.
There aren't too many ways for Rosty to really finish off the 8/4 if it gets some kind of value trade onto the 2/3, let's say.
Relevant here, though, is that mirror going. I know it's not in play yet.
Yes.
But there's no way Saiyan can play all these things before that mirror hits. So Rosty's going to get something good from this mirror, most likely.
It's possible. It's really the big... Oh, that poisonous. You have a 2/2 on the board. It can get a really good trade. You have another Murloc that's going to have to be pinged, so you're slowing down the enemy mage here. So it seems like we're trading tempo plays back and forth for these two players.
All the time, I think Rosty, because he's not getting slaughtered yet, is getting himself in a situation where his secrets are going to start to be a big deal. Now, Saiyan may pick up a really cheap Murloc, which will change that on its head, but if he does not, Rosty's looking at having Saiyan almost locked out with Counterspell and Mirror both up next turn.
Yeah, but this is exactly what this Megasaur is doing. There aren't too many ways to finish it off. There's one Frostbolt left in the deck, a natural one, and there's the Glyph that has to find, you know, specific answers. There aren't, you know, it's not impossible, but it's not easy, you know, by any means to find something to kill the 8/2.
Polymorph does it, but it doesn't do it how you would like.
Yeah, it's just so inefficient. You're not developing more onto the board. You don't really get to kill the poisonous, negate the board at the same time. It's all very slow. And this is precisely what you'd expect to see.
So Saiyan doesn't really want to play the mirror situation here, but going to have to. Because the Spike Steed and the Blessing of Kings, at some point one's going to have to be procs to get the other one down. Probably on the 10 mana turn.
Let's go back to that polymorph, right? Like, it was picked up specifically for the Spiker Steed, at least very likely for the Spiker Steed. Tyrion Fordring is also a great target. Bone Mare, buffed minions are also amazing to polymorph, but there's always a polymorph target later in the game to hit if you're that mage player.
Oh, this mage deck sometimes just is such a tease. It's like all the cards just coming in the wrong order, but he's still managing to stand in a pretty good position because of that counterspell. It's really put a spanner in the works for the longest of times here.
Yeah, and now we see the polymorph used preemptively, as there's no other way to really address the 5/5. Relying on the counterspell to negate the advantage that a Spiker Steed could yield, but that Curator is ready to go.
Decent looking board though, because next turn Rosty gets to Arcane Intellect with Kirin Tor in hand. Good things can happen from that.
That is one of the 2 Hydrologists coming up for Justsaiyan. Those can also be pretty impactful. Get a getaway Kodo sometimes.
60% of the time is not all of the time though.
Well, that's not precisely what I was digging for. But
no, they're the 3 secrets I didn't want to see, precisely.
I mean, Redemption, Getaway Kodo, I grabbed. Noble Sacrifice is the next best in line in this case. It triggers the counter spell, doesn't really matter. And then you get your Steed for full value. You've seen the polymorph. When the sheep gets polymorphed, you're good to go. The Hydrologist was such a sick pickup for Justsaiyan.
Helped out a lot. Now you've got a sheep horse to worry about. And Rosty's just always like 1 mana behind where he wants to be, or 1 pickup or something, but still managing to fight pretty even terms. And Firelands is definitely a way around switching the board.
This has been so back and forth. It's about to go in one player's favor very soon. I want to say the Blessing of Kings really gives the edge to Saiyan here, given the way the trades are lining up, but that Firelands portal could turn things around once more.
Yeah, it really could. Random 5 drops are about 5/5.
An extra removal spell on top of that. This is another comeback turn.
Oh.
Just when you thought you had a shot.
I mean, he's still in a decent position. Ouch. 11 mana in hand is not the number you wanted.
Well, it's just that your 1/1s clean up the 4/2, right? So you're effectively negating the Kirin Tor Mage, and then your 4/6 is challenging 2 minions on board.
And then you got Finja for next turn.
I think Justsaiyan's got the advantage in terms of resources here. A Bone Mare for Rosty could do a lot of work here. He is running a copy of Bone Mare in the deck. He ended up picking up the Bittertide Hydra #2.
No Yogg here, though.
Yeah, but that's
a
fantastic.
lot of secret mages, but this is going to work out okay. And every turn, it looks like somebody different is winning this game.
Justsaiyan could get Sunkeeper Tarim to, again, tilt it back in his favor. Tyrion Fordring. There are a lot of cards here that can turn this game upside down.
Rallying Blade, not a bad one, actually.
It deals with the Mana Worm. One thing to keep in mind, too, is that when there are a lot of Murlocs on the board, for whatever reason, you can get a lot of hits in the Bittertide if that comes up. I'd venture to say, though, that at the moment, killing the Mana Worm feels, with a Rallying Blade, feels, counterintuitive. But because you really want your Finja to kill something. You really need those Murlocs out. So leaving the Mana Worm gives you that out.
Saiyan's adding up a lot of 8s in his head right now. There's not many 8s in 25. He's trying to work out how long he's got if he wants to take his time. And he's going with, I don't have that much time. Rosty has quite a lot of outs to make this a really short clock. Like a just Fireball would be pretty good. That Arcanologist, because that's pretty good if so.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be able to get a Spellbender in his deck.
That's a counterspell, I think.
Second copy of counterspell, yes.
Which is absolutely amazing timing for him.
Sunkeeper Tarim looks like it could save the day. Consecration.
That, in some ways, has helped because now he can actually play his Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, he's able to at least get the kill on the 2-3 with the Finja.
Yeah, either way, he'll consecrate first, almost certainly, to check the counterspell. Now he'll get the Blessing of Kings on the Finja. What I was saying about how many 8s in 25, those 8s are running out.
Well, there are fireballs in Rosty's deck. We haven't seen a single copy of them, so there are 2 insta-deaths. There's the Firelands portal that also finishes the game up, so Rosty's on a game-winning draw. If he doesn't find it, though, there's a win coming back his way. Oh!
Oh, dear.
Oh, the pain.
A 10-mana 1-3. Well, it's an 8-mana 1-3.
Yeah. Okay, that's rough. That's just painful.
It's really not fun.
I mean, he's setting up a lethal.
Do you play it? Is there a reason not to play it?
So if you don't play the Mana Worm... is there a reason for that? Maybe...
He hasn't got a Vile Spine in his deck.
It's a Bone Mare target. It's a Bone Mare target.
Sure, that's the one.
It's got to be the Bone Mare target.
Yep.
It makes sense in that case. I mean, you just get yourself an extra...
Oh, no Noble Sacrifice, which is the card he would have wanted this time, and would have been a punish for that Mana Worm as well.
Well, I mean, you can still get yourself some Murlocs.
You can get a lot of things going on here.
And you deal 3 damage for the hits. For what it's worth, this Finja's pushing some damage face. Getting the other War Leader
So is it just double Fireball? I think we've seen at least 1 Intellect.
There are 2 Fireballs and another Firelands portal in the deck left. Yeah.
We see 1 glyph or we see both? We've seen at least 1?
1 glyph. I think there's another...
Not many out, but not that many cards left in the deck. That's not the one he's looking for, though.
Bluff the Ice Block, maybe Justsaiyan decides he's not going to attack. Doesn't matter, Saiyan takes it with the Murloc Paladin. Well, that's a matchup out of the way, but it's also one where Justsaiyan went in favored. So no surprise there.
It'll feel like a big win, though, because several turns there, it looked, could get dodgy. Like if Fireball comes off the top and he's 1-0 down in a favored matchup, that's not at all where he would have wanted to be. So he'll be very relieved as opposed to excited to have won that one in the end.
Yeah, and now Druid and Priest left on Rosty's side. They're pretty much what you'd expect. They're just the Jade deck, as well as the Priest deck, the Shadow Reaper, Anduin, Razakis build. So
there's a Starfall in the Druid. There's an Eater of Secrets in the Druid.
Yeah, we talked about that. I feel at the beginning of the Swiss round, we mentioned Eater of Secrets sometimes making its way into Razakis Priest. It's not particularly common, but if you expect a lot of anti-Druid, anti-Priest matchups, then you could have a justification for Eater of Secrets, as that could kill either Secret Mage, or you could also kill the Exodia Mage.
He's playing the Priest, just looking through there. Anything interesting? He is still playing Greater Healing Potion, which is not necessarily obvious these days. He's got a Dirty Rat. Yeah, nothing else. There's a Galaka Crawler. Nothing else particularly exciting.
Yeah, he's running the Auctioneer build with the Greater Healing Potion instead of the Binding Heal, which usually tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Rosty's sort of mixing and hybridizing both builds.
It's interesting because he is banning out Rogue, I believe. Or perhaps he's not. Because the Greater Healing Potion is really good against Rogue, whereas the Binding Heal is not so good.
Yeah, the Rogue was banned. Was not banned, that is. So.
Yeah, there isn't a Rogue to ban, I don't think so.
Justsaiyan looking to get that tempo lineup to work out. So far, so good. Paladin's on the board. He's also got some decent push potential here. There's no obvious way. There's actually just no obvious way in Rosty's entire deck to deal with this on turn 3, barring some wild Pyromancer shenanigans.
He can slow it down massively, though. He has a Pain, he has a Death, he has a way to... He's going to use Shield into Pain to cycle, which is where I was going next. So, although he's going to take quite a big hit, he's also going to be able to stop this at some point pretty soon.
Yeah, but the board flood is about to begin. Sure, let's just end the game. There's probably an argument in favor of the little plants. I mean, they're nice, but when you can push 9 and end the game next
4 attack minion at the same time and set up lethal.
I'll take my...
I told you he had loads of ways of dealing with this stuff.
Yeah, Rosty, though, on the other side as well, picked up the Holy Smite, which deals with the 5-2. Extremely big pickup here for him. we're not quite over, though. Justsaiyan has a little bit of a refill with Murlocs. They're small now, but with Sunkeeper Tareem, they can be made a little bit bigger. So as long as you sequence the attacks properly, that can be done. Making an 8-7 out of this, although without Shadow Word Death Life, I think it's just correct.
In the olden days, the question was trade or face. The only question you have to answer these days is wide or tall. Which way do you want to go?
Yeah, it's a... That's the deck.
You can hear a yay somewhere in the arena from a soul voice. I think we know who he's cheering on.
Yeah, that Shadow Vision's got that Shadow Word Death very nicely, and now the one copy comes off the draw. Because Justsaiyan had the info, the card's in the deck. I don't have the odds that he drew it by now, extremely slim. Almost no way that he drew it, but guess what?
Sometimes things happen in Hearthstone. All right, still though, only got to find a little tiny bit of damage here. That's now got to find a little tiny bit of mana.
You can make a 4-2 out of this Murloc. So you just play a Murloc, play a Vilefin, play another Murloc. That's enough to push insane damage. And then with Sunkeeper Tareem, there's a high chance you're able to close it out. The big issue is, does Spirit Lash lock you out of the game? The alternative is just to play Tareem now to hit for 3, remove the Spirit Lash massive heal. Since you've seen Shadow Word Pain, you're likely to keep the Tareem. So maybe not going wide is correct.
Yeah, Tareem's kind of hard to kill on its own at this point as well. It's a tough call.
Yeah, you want to get the Bone Mare. So you want to go wide, but if you go wide, then Spirit Lash can punish occasionally. Gonna go for the white board and give Rosty a little bit of value.
Yeah, Rosty's going to get something out of this Spirit Lash. Rosty hasn't been able to go about his plans at all, though. He's been all hands on deck, just playing anything that kills his opponent's minions, which means that his hand size is lower than you'd hope at this point as a priest, which means that even if he gets into combo, Saiyan may still have a turn or two to set himself up again. Yeah,
the thing is, it's nowhere near the tipping point that Rosty wants to be at, because at 6 mana, you're just not in the mana count where you can start turning the game around with crazy combos and heal yourself. Raza's not been played, so the heals are not free, so he's not really recovering at any point. So it's down to that Spirit Lash to carry the health gain at this point in the game. Getaway Kodo on a measly 1-1 is not going to solve the issue. And just look at that.
I'm looking.
It hurts. It just hurts. Everything hurts, Lorinda.
That happens as you get older.
The menagerie.
This is a 4-6.
Yeah.
You guys complain about a 4-6, at least not too much. It draws you 3 cards. You're guaranteed to extract at least some value. The win seemed so close, but it ran away with Spirit Lash.
Still chances, though. Still plenty of chances.
Yeah, I mean, he's got enough refueling to keep going. I mean, he's got the good Murloc plays. He's got the Megasaur with sufficient amount of Murlocs.
And Rosty's got to find time to play the cards. He's had they're good cards. He wants to play them, but it's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah,
and he's still got to find wins.
True. After that, he does have to get the Shadow Reaper online. I mean, he's not winning the board for a while.
Quickly.
That's a given. He knows that's not repentance. Gotta figure out what else it is.
He looks like he's going to heavily play around Noble Sacrifice here, but then decides to go into it in the anyway.
Well, you do. The problem is you don't want them to dictate what's left to hit a Noble Sacrifice. That's the big risk against Priest, is that if they get to choose the Noble Sacrifice target, let's say, they just run ahead and win the game that way.
Greater Healing Potion, of which we spoke. That will definitely swing the game back his way if he can get it down. And he's going to be able to, because there's going to be no minions on board for Saiyan to attack with.
This is the tipping point Rosty was looking for. That circle of healing got him the draw.
And Saiyan has no answer to the Auctioneer.
And the heal is just coming in. I mean, that Spirit Lash, that was the crucial turn.
Yes.
We have to go back to like the history of the game so far and what allowed Rosty to come back. It was Justsaiyan's decision to commit to go wide for a Bone Mare target to be available. But then Spirit Lash came out and things went wrong. Justsaiyan played to his odds with the Shadow Word Death. That was a very good play. And the punish came out.
Love the top deck. It's not even. It's only a punish, I think. If it's a mistake, it was the right thing.
Right,
It's more of a top deck came out. just to be really pedantic, because, why not?
We could call it a celestial punish.
Celestial punish.
It's unjustified and it just comes down. That's pretty much what happens.
Nature's punish.
Yeah, that's
Druid card, 3 mana, draw 10 cards.
Seems good.
Done.
Well, Justsaiyan is going to be trying to identify the line that gets him the win the most likely. I think it's going to look like a Murloc spam, given that it gets him 3 Murlocs on the board and a Megasaur buff, and that's the best way to make sure he maybe has a body left over, and that's going to guarantee that.
There's no Spirit Lash left, he knows this much. There's probably not much else AoE left going on.
There's Wild Pyromancer left sometimes.
What do? You've got to heal for 12, obviously, and draw some cards. That seems good.
I mean, the Shadow Word Horror actually handles all the little plants after they spawn.
It does.
So that's another issue that Rosty will be able to tackle. It seems as though all the challenges Justsaiyan is throwing, you're just getting met.
It's so annoying when you're playing against a Highlander deck that's run really low on cards, and they still have every answer. I know he's had some draws from the Auctioneer, but it's...
I mean, at this point...
One at a time, he's had the right card at the right time.
He's just dismantling the board at this point. Without any care, it's just...
Yeah.
Cruising to victory.
I think we might see a bottom right after this Shadow Word, to be honest.
I mean, honestly, after Potion of Madness, there's just not much else that Justsaiyan can pull off. He's got a Consecration in the deck.
What happened? That was one heck of a Hearthstone turn. Just kept doing things until he ran out of time and stuff. It's just insane. Justsaiyan sticking on the board for 2 or 3 turns has not been good for anybody ever since the dawn of Hearthstone. It's kind of bad news.
It's taken a long time for it to make its way to Prix decks, though.
Yeah, next up, Justsaiyan Zoo.
I don't even want to know what that looks like. Well, this is kind of a recovery point for Justsaiyan, potentially. It seems unlikely, but it isn't quite over yet, because Tareem is the great equalizer in this spot. Well, that's gonna hurt.
At last.
Yikes. It just, the pain just keeps coming out.
Going for a 10.
Go ahead, have fun. Reset this board if you'd like. Get big stuff.
Just...
Plays around Bone Mare.
You don't often go for a 10-drop potion, but he's got so much else going on.
Pain, speak to me.
Yeah, Rosty's just dominated his way back into the game. Kazak is coming out with a replenishment of options.
And he's making sure that Saiyan can't generate big stuff to give him the problems that he can't answer. And, well, talking of which, there's big stuff.
That's the closest thing to a damage push that Justsaiyan's going to get this game. He needed it a few turns ago, to be fair. He would have needed to dominate on the board for the entire game.
I think Saiyan will just drop this on the board, because last turn, Rosty basically said, I have no way of dealing with a Bone Mare turn. So I think we'll just see Tyrion just plopped onto the board now.
What do you think of the Cold Light Seer into Bone Mare? That's a bit of, that's a spread of your threat.
I like getting the weapon before my opponent gets his hand on. I like getting my Ashbringer and just starting to whack face with it.
So if you don't make a 1-1, you're playing around a potential Potion of Madness to ping the shield, but there's really nothing there that could be likely, is there?
Silence has gone, I think, so Bone Mare onto this could be just ridiculous.
There's got to be a reason why he hesitated for the 1-1. Must be... I'm missing it. Either way, that's a card that will handle this Tyrion like it's nothing.
Saiyan wins the second that 0 mana heal to face. Yeah, Acolyte of Pain.
Of course, the card draw, obviously. Well, Justsaiyan just looking... Frankly, after the series of draws from Rosty, there's just nothing Saiyan could have done.
If you're trying to find that game in the VOD, Saiyan, and you start at this point, don't bother. Don't rewind to the start of that game. You don't want to see it. Just move on with your life.
It hurt.
It was fine play. Just deal with it, dude. Don't hit rewind.
Yeah, Rosty, though, he was just throwing the best answer he could at the board every single time he could. There's also the Shadow Visions that he preemptively took a death with to make sure that he could kill a threat and that there was still a death left in the deck. And he picked it up.
Death's really good against Bone Mare decks. It's a card that you know, while you're waiting for Anduin, you have to sometimes be able to kill those mid-range threats we've talked about all day. And death's the way to do that. And if you get 2 of those deaths, yeah, you're good. You get yourself to that Anduin.
Oh, interesting. Now we see the mirror match. We had a whole lot of that in DreamHack Montreal.
We really did, yeah.
This list is a little bit...
I like this because Mass Dispel is in this deck.
Yeah, you can't really...
And I'm a big fan of Mass Dispel because the Priest Mirrors are a thing.
Well, there's no Gnomish Inventor, so it's a sacrifice rather than just an all-in on the draw. In Justsaiyan's deck, usually in these types of decks, what ends up happening is that they're both racing for Shadow Reaper Anduin and Rosty the Chain. There's really no secret about it. And the player who plays the most draw tends to get there fastest. They all play Velen, Mind Blast. Now, at the moment, Rosty's got the edge with the Rosty the Chain, but there's a Dirty Rat in Justsaiyan's deck that could upset that.
Yeah, it really could. You'll just notice there that we just said about getting loads of card draw, but Rosty threw away Acolyte of Pain. So he's throwing that away because it gets stolen. It's just such a nuisance. You can't just put it on the board. Your opponent steals it with their potions and draws their cards off your Acolyte. So he threw it away, but he got it straight back anyway.
It's a fine card to play when you have Wild Pyromancer and you need to get extra card draw.
Yeah.
And you're able to use a lot of spells with the Wild Pyromancer. But in the matchup, you oftentimes are looking to get those spells out with a kill, as opposed to Wild Pyro if you can. And the great equalizers come in. Raza and Kazakis for both players. Truly a Razaka's deck.
Going to be interesting here to see, assume they will both go for 5-mana potions trying to draw 2 cards, but see if anyone deviates from that strategy.
So this could be very big if Rosty had an answer the minute he pulls with Dirty Rat, because that's what really matters the most, is you have to see something that's rather benign, and then once you've pulled that, you can maybe take a shot at Dirty Rat.
You know that Mass Dispel we were talking about a minute ago? It's going to do some work here. That's just draw a card, deny 1 or 2 cards.
It's not even bad in the matchup, because you have so many, Blood Mage Thalnos, Loot Hoarders. Generally speaking, they're played when they're killed to make sure that you cycle them yourself and they're not stolen with Potion of Madness. But Mass Dispel counters them as well, and that could be big, but it isn't.
But it misses. It's getting a bit rowdy out in that crowd.
Oh yeah, this is when the stakes are high for all the players involved, so.
It's also when a lot of the players who are either playing the side event or play this event start actually spectating. They've come here with groups of friends, and so the guys out there, we can hear you making a lot of noise. It's good fun.
Yeah, that's the Hearthstone spirit at events. Beginning is very quiet.
Look how greedy Saiyan's being with this Northshire here. He's got the circle in hand. He doesn't want 1 card, he wants 4 cards, and that's going to come up in a moment unless something crazy happens here from Rosty.
And I think that's just correct, right? Like, you want to maximize the value you get from it almost every single time.
And he is going to get a chunk of value from this Northshire in a minute. And all you can do in the Priest Mirror, pretty much, apart from some mechanical issues, is draw more cards than the other guy. Give yourself the best chance of getting there first.
Yeah, you also have to be a little bit wary of the other priest making you overdraw.
Yes.
That's happened.
It has, but you've got to also make sure, I mean, sometimes you do tend to get to the end of your deck or close to, so the overdraws matter a bit. But you've also got to be careful that you don't tiptoe around it too much and not draw cards because of it.
Your soul. Find you.
Now there's the question of whether or not you circle, but I think getting 2 card draws, depending on what he picks up, is oftentimes fine. Do you silence your Northshire afterwards? I mean, that is 4 damage with Velen on board later on. Circle represents 4 damage as well.
Do you shield first here because you might only want 1 card?
I think there's a very good reasoning behind not overdrawing at this point. Your opponent could do it to you already. It's bad enough.
Get in there, he's getting through that deck. Even if he doesn't draw the Anduin, he's getting all these cards closer to it.
You have to dump something.
There's loads of ways to dump stuff. You're fine, you can dump a thing. Probably should dump a thing.
Don't let him over... I mean, the odds that he has Circle of Healing to overdraw you are not exactly the best. It's a fringe way to lose. It feels bad when it happens.
That was interesting and very well played. Saiyan there right at the end suddenly decided he wanted to play Kazakus and realized that with the amount of rope left, he was going to have no time to analyze his play. So rather than just punt the game by playing Kazakas and pressing buttons and flailing around. He just bailed on the play and went with the more sensible option. He really wanted to play that Kazakas there. He went to lift it up.
Yeah, it also happens to work nicely with, you know, when the board develops a bit more, you're able to make more, I guess, precise decisions as to what you want. It's mostly going to be card draw in the matchup, though, let's be honest. Hey, back to the Northshire point.
You don't want to cycle your smite if you can possibly help it. That's a big part of being an OTK. And we know that Rosty has healing in his deck, enough of it, like more than usual. So you want to be able to do 30 in a turn. So keeping that Holy Smite back for Velen for later when your Anduin's doing its thing. It's a big deal if you can hold on to it. Obviously, a lot of the time here, if you were desperate, you'd smite your cleric and redraw. He's not desperate enough to want to do that. He's got to look for OTK.
Yeah, took the card draw and the minion health. We've spoken about this a lot, but one of the cool things about the matchup is that while it's usually won on the back of Shadow Reaper Anduin, going face with everything, there's a component of the game that sometimes ends up devolving into some board war.
Yeah.
And when you pick up the plus health on a Kazakus potion, you can ensure that you don't lose your board to Dragonfire potions and damage shenanigans. And so you're able to capitalize on that board state to chip away at the enemy health so that you can actually cycle some, I want to say, combo pieces.
Yes.
Because you don't need the damage from Velen later on.
And also, even if you don't get it so you can lower their health total too much, you sometimes get them to use 3 or 4 cards up so they can't kill you when they get their combo because they're down to like 2 cards in hand. So the board war has this almost irrelevant side game going on, but sometimes it can just win you the game in unexpected ways.
Right, and you have to pay attention to it a little bit, which is why, you know, the +4 health isn't negligible here. It really puts the minions far away from death.
This is so frustrating, by the way, when you get one of these games where you've drawn so many cards and your hand just says, no, well, you haven't drawn any cards. You've just got this awful priest hand, as awful as it can be for 10 cards and drawn half your deck.
Just got a bunch of stuff. To be fair, though, they're both sort of sitting on the same kind of hand. And Justsaiyan here recognizing the card draw needs to be dispensed with. That's Velen. We're still looking for Shadow Reaper Anduin on both sides. Hey, this could be a, I guess, the same thing that just happened with Shoop. Very long game. MTG Kid got it to the last card.
You don't mind these ones being long, though. You get a good night's sleep and you come back tomorrow fresh. You finish for the day. You just put all your effort into this one match of Hearthstone, and then you worry about the other match tomorrow.
Yeah, there's still a rogue for Justsaiyan on the back of this priest. So I'm still not discounting that lineup.
Meanwhile, we're talking about how Saiyan hasn't really got very far towards his combo. But Rosty hasn't got his Anduin either, and he's much more likely to be further away because Saiyan's drawn so many more cards. He's just that much closer on average.
Yeah, and you almost, I mean, you cannot afford playing this card draw generation that Rosty's holding on to. You know, Thalnos, Loot Hoarders, as long as you haven't seen Potion of Madness, it's a little bit iffy. You're looking to play it alongside a Spirit Lash.
It's a 2-card swing, not a 1-card giveaway. That's the problem. You're 2 cards worse off than you started if it gets stolen.
And this is precisely it. Blood Mage Thalnos gets played as a throwaway just to be cycled by the Dragonfire Potion, as we were alluding to. It needs to die when it hits the board because you can't give it up.
Saiyan has drawn so many cards. There cannot be many cards left in his deck right now. He has drawn cards with everything imaginable and just hasn't managed to hit Anduin. Because this game just ends if he hits Anduin in the next turn or 2.
Yeah, likewise with Rosty. I mean, he's drawing now. He found a way to ping his Loot Hoarder and is able to dig a little bit further. Every time they draw and it's not Anduin, there's some disappointment.
Right, it's just, you just feel entitled after a while to draw your Anduin. It's like, I've drawn all these cards, why won't you just appear for me? But it is 50-50 to be in your bottom 9 cards, either Anduin or Raza, assuming that you don't mulligan for them, which of course you do. So it's a little bit better than 50-50, but
not by much.
But not by much.
So there's a similar play on both sides. Developing healthy minions. Fight for board a little bit.
Fighting for board in the strangest way. Like, anybody new to Hearthstone would be saying, That's not very good. He's just put down that thing that hurts himself. But the whole point is he's occupying the board and also getting rid of the clutter from his hand. Priest of the Feast is sometimes useful in the healing up so your opponent can't do 28 to you, but this game's gone on so long that it's very likely that both players are ready to OTK should they draw their Anduin.
It looks like Rosty is going to opt for the Dragon Fire clear to cycle the Thalnos, so back we go. And the advantage here, of course, is that this also takes care of the Priest of the Feast. Very often you have to spend a little bit of effort. You know, if it's Loot Hoarder you're throwing out, it's a bit different. This ends up doing a good job of
just
covering.
To note here as well, with the OTK we keep talking about, Rosty has kept the coin for the entirety of the game. That's another 4 points of damage and another mana. Like, you have 11 mana, which makes it so much more easy to do 30 instead of 28.
Yeah, and Justsaiyan is going to start cycling and picks up the card he was looking for.
And does not bat an eyelid. It's like, there's a good card in my hand, but I'm not going to give that away. But he's going to give it away next turn because he's going to smash it onto the table as quickly as he can.
There's like a half giveaway there because he played Auctioneer, played a spell, and decided to just stop playing. So it almost says, oh, I drew what I needed. I'm not going to spend any more spells cycling through this deck. To be fair, this was also a useless one.
And next turn plays the Anduin. The turn after he has at least 28 damage, depending how things pan out. So Rosty's going to have to try and stay on full health, which means killing all of the minions and everything, and healing at an appropriate time. As Rosty hasn't got it, it looks like it's all over, but maybe he can just find a way to not die to the 28. Is there a 30 there?
Well, the way I'm looking at this, I think.
Oh, he has the Radiant.
He has the Radiant Elemental.
Yeah, so he can get the 32. He can play the 2 zeros instead of 1/1.
But exactly the Holy Smite and the Binding Heal being playable instead of not. And that is Justsaiyan killing his way to the victory. Again, this matchup comes down as you'd expect. At this point, who gets Shadow Reaper first, who gets Raza first, and of course the Mind Blast, Holy Smite. More importantly though, you really need to get this Shadow Reaper, so the fireworks come in and end it for Rosty.
It so ended it with a 2 zeros in hand to spare, although one can't be played, so yeah.
It's the extra card you just need at this point in the game. And Justsaiyan will have to play this Priest again. Not a big deal for him. Rosty's going to be on Druid. Not really the matchup you want to run into, let's be fair.
Sure.
But the Druid seems to be teched to beat aggro a little bit more. We have the double Doomsayer, go like a Crawler.
Primordial Drake.
It isn't really what you'd want to run into a...
Starfall. What's that going to do?
It's supposed to be good against the other tempo decks, but this
isn't a tempo deck. This is a shoot you in the face for 32 deck.
Justsaiyan's playing a sort of a hybrid lineup, right? With the Rogue and Murloc Paladin being heavy tempo.
Yep.
And then you've got the Priest and Druid, which are, well, arguably the best classes according to...
Yeah, he's playing a little bit more LHS traditional, which is slightly more off-center, slightly more counter, uncounter, get countered type deck, whereas a lot of people have chosen to just bring 4 50-50 decks.
Yeah, exactly. Very well-rounded tempo decks, and then you have the lineups that say, well, if you play X, I'll beat you with Y, then you play Z.
And Saiyan's pushed that way, just a little tiny bit, just a little tiny bit more traditional. Nothing crazy or anything.
Yeah, Rosty's not sitting on the cards he's looking for this matchup, I'll tell you that much. They're nice, but they're no openers with Jade Idols and Wild Growth.
Is someone injured?
Saiyan
slow.
Cleric's a good card to get out there early because it has to either be Wrath, it takes up their Wild Growth, and if they have a Jade Blossom, it just completely shuts down that. You get a card for their Jade Blossom. But as it happens, the answer was there. Nice pickup though for Saiyan. You're going to be able to start drawing a lot of cards.
Opens up with a Blood Mage Thalnos instead of Novice Engineer. Blood Mage Thalnos, a card that you can keep for later if you really want to get the... Dragonfire Clear, let's say, that's a bit stronger, a better Spirit Lash. The upside, though, is that the earlier it dies, the faster you draw.
Yeah.
Whereas if you wait to play it, then you have to trigger it yourself. So he sacrifices the potential for a better clear for the immediacy of the card draw.
I hope you like my invention.
Okay, Saiyan needs to pick something up soon because it's just a whole hand of nothing. You don't want those reactive cards against Druid. You are actually the person who's got to go a bit aggressive a lot of the time. You've got to force Druid to react to you. If you just let it ramp and do its thing, Druid does its thing better than anything.
Yeah, but if you get a big minion down, it usually sticks.
This is also true.
It's one of the big upsides as well of Velen. You can just jam it sometimes on the board.
You hate having to shadow visions this early. You normally want more information, but it's going to take the shield and at least get to cycle one more card. But this is a pretty grim hand so far. That's a little bit of an improvement.
It got better. I mean, this is going to be very powerful for the next turn.
Yeah.
Likely to get 2 draws the way things are shaping up. So the Acolyte of Pain is maybe his ticket to the combo win.
Gonna need it to be.
Blackball though.
Yeah, these Jades are just starting to develop. The whiteboard's starting to happen. And Saiyan's going to have to find some cards soon. There is the Powered Shield, the real one.
I mean, there's a Potion of Madness. There's a Shadow Word Pain. Like, he's got the tools to get there. There's no rush.
There's a Shadow Reaper Anduin. That's a tool to get there.
And the best part about the Shadow Reaper is that it's coming just about the right time because Rosty's Jades have sort of scaled up at a pace where by the time Shadow Reaper comes out, they're going to be about 5-5, 6-6, based on the hand that we're looking at from Rosty.
And there's a case of, do you want to be greedy with a Shadow Reaper? There probably isn't a hurry. I mean, when I say that, I mean 2 or 3 turn window. I don't mean you've got to get on with it to some degree, but it's not an absolute panic, is what I mean.
Yeah, but this is quote unquote the panic because this 4/4 is rather difficult to kill.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Dragonfire Potion was in Shadow Visions earlier. He did not pick it up.
So he's got to work out what he wants to hit with this to draw his card. Glimmer is kind of handy, but is it handy enough? It's going to allow him to put another minion down, which is useful, but you don't want to be this behind on board this early against the Druid.
It's a bit tricky, but he's got the Shadow Word Death. He's got Shadow Word Pain. He's got the Holy Smite.
That's another card draw as well if he wants it, if he can hold on long enough to use it as that.
I don't think so.
But he's just going to wrap away the 5/3 annoying minion on board.
Yeah.
Take his chance with his card draw with other stuff.
That combination of removal is pretty much what Priest was built to do. Really.
Yeah.
It's finding creative ways to deal with dangerous threats. And Rosty can make more Jades, but he's starting to run very low on steam.
Yeah, no card draw in hand, and when this bit of steam's run out, he's going to need to draw a Nourish or something, but we make the point all the time to the point where it gets boring. Druid draws card draw a lot. So you're usually good to go. Spirit Lash turned too late there for saying the card draw that he would want.
Coon can be played as early as next turn, assuming something can be played alongside it. If Rosty wants to go wide, which he does, to apply the maximum pressure. Justsaiyan. Again, that 4/4 is just a little bit pesky here. We talked about it, but this one is... It's the one minion that just hasn't been dealt with. And when it comes from Aya Blackpaw in that spot, you're sort of split between the 4/4 that spawned, the Aya body, and the 5/5 that comes afterwards. And oftentimes your death can't be used twice, so the 5/5 is a problem, and the 4/4 that preceded it is also an issue. So this is sort of the optimal line, or the optimal time that is for Rosty to play that Aya Blackpaw.
Saying here has the option to coin out Anduin, but that's so bad because he hasn't really got any sort of killer combo with Anduin anyway. And again, we saw a minute ago that coin is 4 damage if you don't use it. So he's going to need every point of damage he can get when he finally draws Raza. And so keeping back the coin seems a big deal.
Yeah, the upside of the 3/6 here is that it contests with Spirit Lash, the entire board that's present. The only fear of Justsaiyan would be if Infestation came down.
Yeah.
On paper, it's only coming down at least 1 turn from now. In practice, if it's picked up right away, it could be played.
Coin Holy Smite there would have healed him for 6 and killed off the 2/2, but it would have cost him 12 points of damage when the combo's down. But he had to work out, he had to just be sure that that was okay not to do. But when you suddenly start thinking, well, if I win this game, I need those 12, you just got to suck up this damage you're about to take.
That's Starfall. We laughed at it a little bit, teched against aggro, found a really good target in that Priest of the Feast here.
It did, and Saiyan's main problem now is not dying, which is really odd against this early against the Druid.
I mean, that 4/4.
It's just done a lot.
No Raza the Chained either. Usually one of the upsides of playing against this type of Druid is if you get Raza, well, it's a decent mid-game minion.
It is a decent 5/5, occupies the board, makes sure that you basically nullify the 2/2 because you're healing your own face every turn.
So you're at least able to keep yourself healed up while answering threats. This isn't so much the case here. Justsaiyan sort of fighting two fronts.
Yeah, now he's considering stuff like, do I play Velen and smite the 4/4 just to... My opponent has 3 cards. How bad can it be if they aren't infestation? The trouble is that Innovate has been there for a long time, and Saiyan may think that's an infestation. It may be putting him off playing this Velen because he would lose out really badly if infestation happened.
Yeah, this is definitely the read that he's making. That's why he might hold on a little bit longer to the cards he's got. He's always able to play, you know, Velen with Spirit Lash and Holy Smite. If Infestation comes out now, he's trying to bait it. Where the Infestation comes out, 5/5 comes out, then he gets a clear. A semi-decent clear, that is, with AoE if he wants it later on. The Shadow Reaper Anduin without Raza, not going to do too much, sadly.
He will get the news now there is no infestation, which will help Saiyan a lot, because if Kun gets played without infestation, you just know they don't have it. And so Saiyan, Rosty may be playing this a bit smart in terms of not giving away too much info here. And he's making his own bait as well, because you kind of have to Anduin that 6/6, but you don't really care if you're Rosty. Dirty Rat into Anduin could be massive if Saiyan is willing to give up the coin.
I think
he's going to do it. And that changes a few things.
I mean, you'd rather there weren't anything, but if there's gonna be something, let it be something that dies.
Saiyan really doesn't want to give this coin up, but he kind of has to now.
Dirty Rat soaks up very well here. And it sets up for Velen, Holy Smite, and Spirit Lash. Whenever Raza's picked up, this is starting to go a little bit more in Saiyan's favor, but it's not quite there yet. Any Jade generator becomes an issue.
It does mean that he has to survive another turn as well after he finally gets Raza. But Rosty has run out of stuff, which doesn't happen very often, and it won't stay like this for long. But maybe Saiyan could get a turn or two out of it. And Rosty's shuffling the Jades, which is lowering his chance of getting that card draw. He may get a 1-mana 7/7.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he could have played the Jade first and then played the Fandral if he wanted to raise his chance of picking up Nourish or Ultimate Infestation.
But I think you're okay with a 1-mana 8/8 at this.
He's saying a 1-mana 8/8 is good at this stage.
Kind of playing it like Big Druid at this point. Now this is like a Big Druid game. We've transitioned into the Big Druid portion of the game where Justsaiyan will be smothered by the size of these large men.
Anytime he wants it and it's a desperation move, he has Velen into Spirit Lash.
Yeah, that's a desperation
He doesn't
heal.
want that, but it's a desperation heal for 12. It's a thing he can do that he needs to look at. However, if he does that, his chance of winning... The only time you do that is you're about to die.
I mean, there's always the option of the Loot Hoarder Spirit Lash now without Velen. I mean, that would give you
Your soul.
card draw to maybe find
doing
additional
that.
options, but I don't know how much I like committing this early to it.
Saiyan's going with, I think you have Innovate. He knows it's not Ultimate Infestation. He knows it's not anything of use. What can it be? I think he's put him on Innovate, but
Could be Spreading
this has been
Plague.
picked up and ripped. Could be Spreading Plague.
I guess.
You may have played it by now even, just to protect your board a little. I think
agree.
Saiyan knows exactly what the card is in Rosty's hand.
Could be Doomslayer.
Oh, but the Wild Growth cost the 2.
And the nerf made itself relevant. That would have been playable another...
This is a big pickup, but it may just be too late. He's picked up the Radiant, which will allow him to do more stuff.
I don't think it is too late. I mean, you look at Justsaiyan, he's able to use cards just to refresh. And that kills off a good chunk of this board. It's just a problem of precisely how much you can survive.
Staying alive is not his issue. It's staying alive with enough stuff left to actually win the game afterwards that is the big problem here for Saiyan. We've seen Saiyan pull some pretty incredible Priest wins out this week so far, though. Games where he has had to burn up resources to not die and then found a way to wriggle after that to make sure he wins. And we're seeing it again. Here goes all of his combo bits just to stay alive.
Might have Shadow Word Pain somewhere lurking in there. I believe he's not used it yet, has he?
I think he may have actually a couple of turns ago, but I could be wrong.
Well, either way, this is going to be a way for him to stabilize. Health-wise, he's back at 15. If there isn't another Jade or Ultimate Infestation, he's feeling like this is doable.
But he's going to feel slightly different after this famous card does its thing. Is it doable now, Nox?
I mean, Inner Fate still brings out Jade Idol, so it does it does what you want it to do.
Yeah. Saiyan's gone from just about getting into it to looking at game 5 really rapidly there.
Another large green man.
Oh, and just in case he wanted to be irritated, is it too late? I think it is.
Yeah, there's no way here to clean up the board.
He's used up so much of the combo. I mean, Velen plus Mind Blast is 20 on the turn after the Raza. But he's got to do 34. Rosty's managed his health total. And,
He can get the one-mana potion from Kazakis, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Or freeze, perhaps.
Yeah, any one-mana potion's pretty good here. It just helps you do stuff. See what he can get from it.
That's a freeze on the right side. That right there gives him a chance.
That's a load of junk.
Well, it's better than death, but I'll admit, I'm not particularly impressed. Not the best target, but at least it's frozen
Of
minion.
the 2, second place. Sounds good.
He's got the typical Velen damage output that's coming up.
All right, so he'll have 3 points of attack next turn from the minion. He's got to do 31. Velen has got Mind Blast. That's another 20. But he's used up the Smite. He's used up a lot of his zero casting cost cards. He's used up the coin. He's had to do all those things to stay alive. It seems unlikely he's got the time. You've got a funny look on your face.
Has he used the Circle of Healing yet in this specific match?
In this specific game?
Yeah, in this specific game, I don't believe he has.
He used it in the mirror, in the other game,
the
to draw a million cards.
Right. I don't think he's played it here, so... Well,
okay.
Now that there's a taunt, I mean, that's all moot and irrelevant, but... Had he been able to connect with all these minions?
Yeah, that would have helped him significantly. Unfortunately, one of those cards is a dragon.
Here, indeed, there be dragons.
He can stay alive, I think. I'm not sure.
He's still alive, assuming there's no swipe, no infestation number 2. No way to really connect to the face, but... there's really nothing there. Until the next Jade, effectively, is what this is looking like.
That's what you said. He's just going to try, but he's going to get a swipe in the face, and we're going to go to game 5 to see if Saiyan or Rostin joins Shoop, Ike, and Muzzy. That's right, Shoop, Ike, and Muzzy, 2 NA champions, plus Zalay's playtest partner, all already in that top 8. Going to be joined by one of these, and we've got a one-game shootout to find out which one.
As of right now, Rosty's forced to play Druid, so that's the last deck to go up against. Tempo Rogue, I don't want to say it was created for the purpose of this, but one of the better matchups at the time was Jade Druid, and that was like pre-nerf, right? Pirate Warrior was around to keep Tempo Rogue in check, but after the changes, with Druid getting hit with a Nerf bat, or the Nerf hammer.
A Nerf bat?
Yeah.
Sounds like a famous player.
Nerf bat?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Battle tag change coming in. The rogues are suddenly farming the druids a little bit easier.
Yeah, they have been to...
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if farming is the right term, but definitely feels that way.
all right. No significant ramp for Rosty and a decision to make about the Wrath. Saiyan, a much easier choice. Just whether you keep the Swashbuckler or not is the only real choice. He likes the Firefly because it's not a pirate, but...
It's all about that Keleseth.
All right.
It's all about that Keleseth. Something like 20%. Oh, he's playing the Elemental
Fire
Rogue
Plume
build.
Phoenix. Quickly rip out that deck list. Let's have a look what's going on.
It is the Elemental Rogue build. Let it be. We talked about this.
Double
today.
Blaze Caller, you mentioned this build earlier. This is
Yes.
the 4th of the 4 sorts of rogue.
But he's not running the Shadowcaster, so the Elemental Rogue is a little bit different than the normal Tempo Rogue. One of the biggest differences that you'll highlight as you play it is probably how, I want to say, bursty it is. So it's a little bit more high variance
Okay.
than the typical Tempo Rogue, because you rely on cards like Tolvir Stone Shaper to be enabled. You absolutely rely on the Elemental Synergy coming to fruition, because if it doesn't, then very often you're stuck with playing mediocre and subpar 4-drops. And so that's I would say that's the weakest point of the deck. On the flip side, the payoff for the late game Blaze Callers is absolutely massive.
Yeah, it's just huge. There's so much damage comes in there. But at the moment, this is good for Saiyan. He hasn't drawn any of that big stuff, but he will. There's loads of it. And has plenty of elementals to keep playing one a turn for all of eternity, basically.
Yeah, and what I like about the Elemental Rogue that the other Rogue does not really share with it is the fact that it's got so many 2-damage pings. It has the backstabs, we all know that. The SI7s are played in this list, sometimes cut out of the other.
Yeah.
Very often even. And they also play the Fire Plume Phoenix, so they're really running a whole slew of 2-damage pings, which gets them an edge when it comes to fighting for board.
Yeah, everything hits a guy, make a guy, all the way through. Phoenix does it, SI7 does it, he's going to be able to do it here. This is going to be extremely obvious as to how good these are. Killer Doomsayer, develop my board. Exactly where you want to be. The board's not particularly menacing yet, but Rosty's already losing enough health. And again, Saiyan has so many 7s and 5s in this deck that he will start drawing into them sooner rather than later. And in the meantime, he's going to be able to just spam stuff.
Yeah, the big worry is that if Justsaiyan doesn't pick up the payoff card, so we're talking, you know, Vile Spine Slayer to use the Fireflies that are present as a 2 of. If he's not able to find the Bone Mares, the Scalebanes, the Blaze Callers, all this, you know, all this mid-game fluff
But that's
is not going anywhere.
That's 8 cards that he couldn't cast yet anyway. And if his deck is maybe 22 cards left, he's got a 1 in 3 every single turn. So in the next 2 turns, he's massive favourite to pick up one of them. He should be good to pick them up. But like you say, if he does not, this attack might be doomed to failure.
And Spreading Plague now looking gorgeous if you're Rosty.
This card is still rather good.
It's gonna get greedier.
I'm not sure I like getting greedy against this. The Blaze Callers can just hit you in the face. They don't care about the Spreading Plague later.
I'm a lot more worried about the Vile Spine Slayer, frankly. I think this is an extremely...
Yeah, he's got away with it. If these minions are connected for another 8 or 9 damage, I think Rosty was just doomed to failure, honestly. Because...
he's not out of the woods yet. This turn is still pushing a tremendous amount of damage. This is just what the deck does.
Just because Blaze Caller, let me make that clear, that goes through Taunt. Nox is so unhappy right now, so he's just throwing things at me now.
Yeah, there's the Blaze Caller that could ruin things. There's also the Vile Spine Slayer. There's so many cards punish the Behemoth development. But he's going to get himself an extra Spreading Plague minion onto the board after all this is said.
He is, but the punish is big.
Well, you know what the punish is? Justsaiyan said, oh, there's no way he's got Spreading Plague.
Extra
it
Spreading
would have
minion.
been played, would it not? And Rosty with the Master Bait.
Is it or is it not, though?
Yeah.
Now there's 2 Blaze Callers required, plus he's going to get to Infestation, so he is going to have to clear up this board of 1/5s.
I don't know how you do that. I'm not sure how precisely he's supposed to clean up this 1-5. He needs the Bone Mare to hit a 1-attack minion here. I think Bone Mare would be the best draw that Justsaiyan can hope for, but with Ultimate Infestation in the back end, and this is precisely...
Saiyan's forgotten to bring his big minions. I said he has a big favorite to pick them up. I don't think they're in the deck.
And this is sort of what I find Elemental Rogue does more than the usual Rogue deck.
It just doesn't quite get everything going how it wants.
It's, you know, Tolvir Stone Shaper is such a huge power card. You know, it's almost a cornerstone of your early mid-game. You almost always need it active. And you need to get some kind of Vile Spine push to really make those elementals do anything. There's less burst, but it's very high variance compared to the old.
I'm looking at the cards he hasn't drawn this game. We're talking Blaze Caller, Bone Mare, Scalebane, Tolvir, Shaku, Edwin, Kellerseth. The Shadow Step, there's one of, that could still come in handy, but it's looking a bit late for 12 to the face. But all of the cards that would have been valuable to Saiyan in this game are still in his deck. He's got to draw them all now one at a time because there's nothing left apart from good cards.
Well, there's also Cold Blood, another Swashbuckler. There are some rather subpar cards left. It's packing a lot of early/mid game, and this is not the type of game where you can afford doing that. To be fair, Rosty has been so far ahead in Mana Crystal, so during the entire game, he's been able to develop absolutely absurd amounts of minions.
And Saiyan, with his 4th top 8 in not many events, still just cannot quite make that final breakthrough to make his name in the big final. Rosty goes through to another quarterfinal, but Saiyan in his 4th time in the top 16, yet again not getting too far, which is a real shame for him.
It is definitely unfortunate that we lose Saiyan in the top 16, but what a fantastic match for Rosty. Him moving on to the top 8 is really very important for him in his career. He right now, like a lot of the other players that we have in the top 8, are kind of right on that cusp of being able to support themselves as a professional player.
Right.
He does a lot of coaching, he does a lot of streaming. He's very talented, but he doesn't have that big win. Got 2nd place to Cydonia at HCT America's Championships last year.
That's a while ago now, though.
Hasn't gotten the win exactly. So for him, moving on to the top 8 is a big deal. But we are not done just yet. We've got one more match coming your way. It is going to be DreamHack Atlanta champion Dr. Jikaninki up against newcomer Count Waffles. Don't go anywhere, guys. The 5th and final top 16 match of DreamHack Denver right after this.